everyone, Kim Hoyer here with Co-creation Global. We are going to have the privilege of Bob Jayco returning with us here in just a moment. I'm going to get him on. He is the founder of Co-creation Global, chief editor of Co-creation Magazine, Global Magazine, and let's see. I don't see him. Okay, well, I have Astrid. I see you watching, Astrid. I don't see Bob yet, Adam. So as soon as Bob, that is Co-creation Global. Is that Bob? I don't know. Okay, well, I'm gonna add this one, I guess. Maybe just Astrid is supposed to join me because that's the only one that I can actually add right now. Astrid, do you want to talk with me? Yeah. Astrid, yeah, you're Astrid on there too. Bob is not showing up on mine yet, but I could tell you guys some jokes. I have a good fall joke. Someone didn't think it was funny the last time I told it, but I think it's cute. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? For being outstanding in his field. All right. Maybe I need a new joke. Okay, hopefully Bob will come on any minute. Bob is a channel for SOL, which stands for Signals of Love. And he is... Astrid, are you making fun of my joke? And has so much wisdom for all of us. So it's going to be amazing when I finally see him on here. Maybe it's because he's in Australia and we're Pacific time. There's some sort of disconnect on the live. Let's see. I see Astrid and David. Hi, you guys. Love you. I'm trying to think if I learned anything today. Someone was asking, oh, Delaney brought me bubbles. Yeah, if all else fails, just blow bubbles. There you guys go. You got some bubbles? Oh, Delaney, you're so amazing. I was on this group chat today with some healers and people, and one of them, she said she's been doing a lot of healing lately, getting healing, and she feels like she doesn't want to give any out. And okay, now Bob's here. You'll have to come back for that story. I'm gonna add Bob. Add. Yay! We have it.
Hello.
We are side by side. I tell you, these live videos are really challenging sometimes.
I've actually just
I got the message.
I've just come off another interview, so I had to go and do my makeup and get ready for this one. So.
Oh, is that what you were doing?
Yeah, you know, a little bit of powder.
Yeah. Well, you look great. Whoever did your makeup, they did an amazing job.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. So whenever you're ready, Kim, away we go.
All right. Yeah, I was talking to someone today, and they asked if it was selfish not to want to, they felt like they needed a lot of healing. and they don't want to give it out, and she asked if that was selfish. What do you think about that?
Repeat the question. Maybe I've been on interviews for too long.
Yeah, it probably wasn't very clear. So she said she's been getting a lot of healing, lately, and
so she's been getting the healing, yes?
Yeah, and she always wants to give it out, but this time she doesn't want to give back. She just wants to keep it all.
She probably needs it.
She asked if that was selfish. She probably needs it, yeah.
She probably needs it. Keep it all. If she needs the healing, then keep it all. Why share if you need it all and just use it until you're healed? There's no rules in this game. So basically, if you see, it pushes this. All of this stuff pushes us into places where we've been conditioned as a collective through millennia of conditioning to give and to give and to give. And there are many people on the planet that are running on empty. They're running on giving so much that they have nothing left to give to themselves. Whoever you are, dear heart, give to yourself. Mom. That is perfectly fine. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes loving the self means receiving and rebuilding your reserves, your energy reserves. Yeah. And in fact, in many ways, when your tank is really full, that's the time to give back. But if you're running on a quarter of a tank or a half a tank, and you just don't get that momentum, the car keeps stalling, glug, 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 glug. Wait till you've repaired the vehicle before you go back out into the world and try and help others repair theirs. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you so much. So were you planning on bringing Saul in today? Does anyone have any questions for Bob? That they would like answered that is watching right now? This can be like an engaging,
you mean
interview with people.
All of you watching, in the infinite possibilities of this condition we call humanity, which has infinite questions. Nobody's got one. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Darren.
Oh, that's Darren. Hi, Darren.
Well.
Okay.
Astrid said hi, Darren. Well, how about that's such a great thing that we need to, give ourselves first. And I do think so many people have been giving and not, filling their own tanks up. So I believe that self-love is the foundation for everything in life. That's kind of been my path. I found most people on the planet have not learned to truly love themselves. Do you find that that's true?
That's an interesting question, because most people don't even understand what love themselves means. What does it mean? Because you've got two dimensions here. You've got the dimension of your local experience and loving themselves through the filters of beliefs and programs and imprints is finite. In other words, you're taught how to love yourself by others. And that part of that process is to begin to unravel all of those stories that have been imprinted in you to be able to discover. The truth of the matter is we learn love at very many different dimensions in the physical plane. Let's call it the 3D plane. And in effect, we learn to love in duality. We learn to love through fear. We learn to love through hate. We learn to love through diversity. We learn to love through war. We learn to love through many different dimensions that we currently and have been experiencing over millennia. We learn through observation. We learn through direct experience. There are many facets of love. And we learn that we experience most of these things through our senses and the physical body. And that's the dimension we're here to work with, that physicality. But in itself, if you let's just flip for a minute and say you're conscious. Okay, you're conscious, you're aware that you're source in a physical body. Now, the paradigm is completely different here, because as source, you are love. You have never been anything else. All you've done is entered a physical world where somebody else gave you a story and you bought that story, you agreed with that story, and you've been playing out that story for most of your life. The opportunity here is to begin to self-reflect, to go inside and see whose stories these are. They belong to you? That's a local, it's an Aboriginal word here called "it belong to you." Does that belong to you? And begin to figure out what's yours and what's somebody else's. And you'll find that in that journey, 99% of the stuff there is somebody else's.
Yes. Yeah. I learned this from Bruce Lipton. He said, by the time we're age 7, we've been programmed by our parents, preachers, and teachers on how to view the world. Do you find that that's true?
Sorry, I had some notification come in, so I missed the question.
I know, it's really hard to pay attention and like.
Yeah, no, it actually blocks, it blocks the sound on my phone. So can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Bruce Lipton, he said that we are programmed by the time we're age 7 by our parents, preachers, and teachers. Do you find that that's
Absolutely.
true?
That takes me back to when I was in clinical practice in Sydney in mid 80s and right towards the end of 90s. Effectively, as a working energy medicine practitioner, and also coined the phrase an intuitive diagnostician, I found that a lot of the preeminent co-creative structures of disease appear in that model. Basically, by the time you're 7, your reality is impregnated into your system. And it's there, and you could say it starts like energy becomes jello and then becomes more solid as you begin to add portions to it and you start living out according to that belief. 90% of where we have co-created this world comes from beliefs and programs that are not ours. You see, we're not trained to listen to I'll use the model inner tutor, mainly because intuition is your primary learning facility when you tap into source itself and you generate wisdom, but you can move aside all the old programs and you have to deal with those internal limitations. That's part of life's journey. And the fact is that you often, in my world, it's as easy as saying, old programs of belief be gone, poof, they're gone. Just as easy as that. We've done this little magic trick called invocation, and it works like that. It's the poof, be gone.
Yes.
Suddenly those years and years and years of struggle and trying to define and trauma, which is basically the world of suffering's in here. It's in our mind. It's in our energy field. We convert it from memory to thought, and then we play it out as an emotion, and we think it's real. And basically, all of those programs mean that when our buttons are pushed, we revert to that 7 or 8 year old. And that 7 or 8-year-old would have
Yeah.
had a direct experience or an observation which they construed to be true, and then built that story around themselves, you see. So, in effect, all of our collective consciousness, or more so collective unconsciousness, is about we're creating experiences through habits, behaviors, and beliefs that are not our own internal foundation. We haven't created those. We've just handed it down.
Yeah.
Let me take that a little further. Imagine you're born in Afghanistan, okay? And you're born, you're there today, and you're a woman. So women are, lesser than.
Very oppressed.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the culture is in that part of the world is a warrior culture. They have been fighting themselves. They have fought the Kublai Khans, the emperors. They have fought the Attila the Hun. They have fought the Russians. They have fought the Americans. Nobody's really defeated them because they've had so much practice at it, fighting themselves.
Yeah.
They're really good at it. And so they hand down that culture down the masculine line to their sons. Their sons, the first thing they pick up is an AK-47. By the time they're 9, they're firing AK-47. By the 10, they're using rockets and everything else. They are trained warriors, and that's infused with them because their religion and their culture, which is tribal, even the next door neighbors are enemies until, there's intermarriage between the two tribes, and then there's a familial blood link. But essentially, they have been fighting for thousands and thousands of years, and it's handed down into the DNA. Now, how I describe that is that, let's go back 3,000 years, and you are in Afghanistan, and you started the whole thing rolling. You said, I'm the number one mullah, and therefore I'm going to teach everybody. Yeah. And so you built all these tribes, and you've got to fight that tribe and fight that tribe. So the culture spread throughout the country, and it was adopted. And so, and then your family created male species, and they inherited the culture. It was a hybridization between the theology and the actual experience and the actual tribal memory, if you like. Now, by the time it's the 3rd generation, that culture is embedded in DNA. DNA creates a strand that is basically, you could see it, you can sense it, and it's in the DNA of the male lineage. The female lineage are a bit different. But essentially, every male comes out as a warrior, knowing that the next village is an enemy, the next village is an enemy, but those people come over the horizon. They're the bigger enemy. So for those short periods of time, they basically merge together, form a bigger army, and fight off the insurgents. And then when they are gone and they're vanquished, they go back to fighting themselves. So that culture, as I said, is very difficult it's challenging to break, because you've got to break the very first beliefs that were infused right at the beginning. It's now 3,000 years old, 4,000 years old, and I'm just using that as an example. But it's you can take any country, India, China, they all have those facilities where the culture, the tradition, and the theology are infused as one system that is handed down from generation to generation to generation. The longer the lineage, without any breaks or without any diffusion. Now, the interesting thing about it is that DNA actually dilutes itself from the 3rd and the 4th generation. In other words, the children begin to come out with a different idea about themselves, and maybe if they're the new children, an idea about their world, provided they have access to that world. If you could say somebody encapsulated Afghanistan in a big bubble, nobody could get into it, and they stayed in that little zone, they would not change, because there's no external input, there's no external energy coming in to infuse that change. Except when the children come out and they're maybe more aware, they will begin to dilute and question the traditions,
Thank
the
God.
theology, and everything else. But we've been doing this for 50,000 years. The same thing over and over again.
I know.
Today, we do it better. We have bigger bombs, bigger killing machines. We have greater technologies that give us access to all of these tools to fight amongst each other. So we've become more efficient at it and better at it as a species, but we're still tribal. Afghanistan is just really one place. I mean, you take any place in the world, including your country, and look at that. The USA is a warrior culture. It has always was, starting from the founding, the Plymouths, the Calvins that came out,
exactly.
And they fought with the Indians. They fought to take territory.
Yeah.
And you're still there.
Yep.
No, everything that you see on this planet, in terms of the not good stuff, is a consequence of a humanity consciousness that is unaware of its origins and what it is. So it's playing this out, you see.
Exactly.
And in that game, is when we decided to play this whole thing, this thing called life, we are granted free will, free choice, even though it doesn't feel like it if you're in places where you're under authoritarian rule. We do have the choice to change or not to change. And that's essentially our evolutionary pathway. But we are here to experience those things. If you're in Syria, your greatest desire would be to get out of there and live a life where it's peaceful and you can bring your children up in a safe space.
Yeah.
And you can live so you can realize your fullest potential. So those of you who are not in Syria or anywhere else where there's war, be grateful that you are living in a place where you have peace and you have advantages and freedom, all of these things. So I tend to look at the world in the broader perspective. And I look at the world, when you look at the world looks at you back. So you get an idea of what the real world is doing. And you see, as a species, we do not move in lockstep in our transformation process. Different countries have different energies, and they do not move at the same rate, the same pace, and the same frequency. So we need to understand that, and to begin to move those into a similar lockstep facility requires an immense amount of power. It's by, at the moment, there is a movement that is, what we call the One Consciousness movement. They're trying to change the dimension of this planet with little batteries.
What do you mean?
Well, okay, in order to do that, we need what's the word? A nuclear power reactor to create the energy to transform the rest of the planet. Whereas little groups, they've just got little batteries, they're just winding it up and trying to see if they can make a difference. It's the energy and the momentum. You've got to have scale to be able to move the forces of different energy frequencies at different places.
Yes.
And you've got to be able to bridge into their language, into their cultures, and you've got to get the cultures to disassemble themselves slowly or define themselves in the point that the original concept of all cultures and all theologies was always the same message. We are source consciousness, co-creating a reality experience through our physical form. And no matter what culture there is, no matter what culture there is, no matter what religion, the baseline tenet of all of those religions was that one statement.
Yeah, the funny thing to me is when you really like break it down, whatever you're doing to someone else, you just did it to yourself, literally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to war with someone, we're one consciousness experiencing itself. When you're going to war and killing someone, you just did it to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Our egos,
if you understand the true nature of PTSD, which is people who go to war zones and experience the process of killing themselves through their thing.
Yes.
they're basically, the energy field is literally chopped up, and they have to come back, and some never do, reassemble themselves literally on every level. That's the dimension of what war does to a human being.
Yeah.
And PTSD is extraordinarily difficult to reset because you reassemble them on different levels. You know, their memories, their psyche, their perceptions of the world, who they are, why they even exist, because a lot of them just take their own lives and disappear. So because, you know, that's what it does. And, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day about weather. And I said, do you know that we control weather? We actually co-create weather. When we have cyclones, the cyclones are causing, when the cyclone comes over a country, it's actually an energy projection of the country's chaos, of what's going on in the country. You know, you've got a tornado coming through, you know, part of the country. It's about chaos, and so are cyclones and hurricanes and all of those sort of things. You know, hurricanes are here to wake up people. Suddenly they're out of their comfort zone. They're placed in really difficult situations, which affects the whole of the country, because it has two things. It has an effect on rallying people to support others, and secondly, it actually a wake-up call to understand that, you know, the chaos is our chaos. You want to change peace on the planet, you have to change peace within yourself. Okay? And all of these you know, peace, collective peace will be achieved when we can live at peace with ourselves every day of the week, every year, for all of our lifetimes. Not just when we get together and have a peace movement. And that is a fact. It actually does create a lulling down of conflict. But once that movement is disseminated, everybody goes back to being peaceful, non-peaceful, peaceful, non-peaceful, because we gravitate. Basically, the energy, the whole of humanity operates on the frequency of emotion. You know, I learnt this many years ago when I was teaching intuition, and actually teaching it for people who wanted to trade the stock market. And there are three things in the stock market there's one thing you need to know. One is it totally runs on emotion. It runs on fear and greed and something in between.
Yeah.
And something in between. And that something in between is what I call inertia. I don't know where to go, I'll do nothing. And so if you watch one of these charts that you see, you'll see, you know, suddenly all the charts are going up, and then there's a little flat spot. That means, we're buying, everything's going real cool, we're making money, okay? And then suddenly they say, not so good, we're not sure where the market's going, so we'll have this little flat spot. And suddenly then the fear drops in, because somebody starts to sell a lot of stock, and the market just goes down. And you see, you can watch this, and you can predict intuitively by reading emotions exactly when to go in when to not do anything, and when to sell. Okay? And it's just simply understanding the collective emotional way that humans doing. Now, if you take the stock market, put it into the political arena, it's exactly the same. All humans respond to three aggregations. They respond to reaction, action, and inertia. Okay, every human emotion responds to a reaction, an action, and an inertia. That means we do nothing. We're neutral about this. There is nothing pushing our buttons, but when somebody pushes your button, you react. But also the other thing is that if you're in a place of fear, you may act in a particular way for survival or other things. So we act through emotion.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So I have learned in my studies that whatever we focus on expands. So if we're focusing on something we don't like, are we in essence expanding that which we don't like? What do you think?
Well, first of all, Kim, I don't think thinking 60 years ago. So in a sense, it's observation. My observation, and also from the transmissions I get with soul, is that is true in part and inconsistent in other parts. So remember, we have this model of different people looking at the world in different ways. Okay, so therefore, what they look at in China reveals what China is thinking as a collective. Now, there's a collectivism or understanding collectivism is really complicated, and we will actually enter into that arena in the future, and actually break it down into chunkable understandings. But essentially, to say that we open a field of consciousness and we expand that field is partially true, but only in your unique experience. Okay, so when you think of something that is you don't want or not desirable, it's two opportunities. One, you open up pathways to infinite possibilities. Okay, let's say you have a choice and you want to expand to a new understanding or awareness or something you want to manifest. Now, there's one pathway, and I'm talking about, when you're talking about, is that you're in the physical world and you're making these choices in the physical world. Right. So and we also need to define whether you're making these choices consciously or unconsciously. I'm going to assume the question is conscious. That in the probability of looking at this manifestation, and you say, I don't want that, but I want that. So what I want to do, but you see, you start focusing on what I don't want. You do actually bring that into your field. You bring that into your field of experience. And often you don't recognize you're doing it because the monkey mind, that basis, that part of us, is trained. It is 90 and 80% a mind of, you can't do this, you can't do that, yada, 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 yada. And it just keeps yabbering away. And so you get hooked into that. And I call this the screaming mind. Because the other part of you, the screaming mind, it just yells at you really loud. Say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, and you catch it. And you say, all right, so I'll bring you a lot more of I can'ts. Okay? Now, intuition mind at a local level it's soft, it's quiet, but it gets drowned out by monkey mind. And I'm using just simple language. So when you listen to, technically I'm talking about your heart. What does your heart want you to follow? Your heart will open you up into infinite possibilities. Now, when I say infinite possibilities, I mean infinite. And what you do is when you begin to move from I can't to I can and I desire, you actually reach into the energy of infinite possibilities and you pull out the possibility. And you convert that possibility into a co-creation of something that you desire. Okay? So the field of infinite possibilities is always there. It's always around you. But it's changing the frequency in order to reach in and pull out that one possibility or several. And then that's, when you're working with the different dimensions. And then you go out and and I'm talking about you're still at 3D level. That's not operating in another place. And so you bring out the infinite field of possibilities. You see, if you're conscious, you would know this. If you're unconscious, some people do it and some people don't. They have no idea what they're doing really.
Yeah.
And they just co-create stuff and experiences. And I'm just speaking to the group in the sense that everything you've co-created and manifested in your life is yours. There's nobody else that does it. And whether you define those experiences as good, bad, or indifferent, you are here to understand those experiences so you can step through them, moving towards a greater choice, a bigger choice. And indeed, what you're doing is you're moving towards that place of infinite possibility. Now, that also takes you into another dimension, and that dimension of opening up that frequency to the part of you that is actually source consciousness itself. The part of you that you don't understand exists, that has always been there and always will be. You're just simply an extension of that. You're a facsimile of it. You're a projection of it. You're a hologram of it. Okay? This body that you think you've got is not really real. It's just frequency. Now, when you move into that dimension, that's a different story.
So, as source creator consciousness, when we are co-creating, someone said something to me the other day that there's all these different things, like say in our subconscious, these programs, right? And he is a intuitive healer, said he could go in and find that movie or script in your subconscious and either replace it with something that you desire or with God's will. So if we are source creator creating this experience, is there, in your opinion, God's will that's separate from ours?
No.
Did that make sense?
No. It makes sense, but the answer is no. That healer is actually looking at himself. That healer is looking at himself through the mirror of his client. And I've said this before, I learned this within 6 months of being in energy medicine as a practitioner, that I said, this is not about the clients, it's about me. And most people don't understand is that, you want to heal the planet? You want to heal another person? Heal what's mirrored back to you from them in you, and then you will heal them. And it doesn't work. You see, we believe, we've got these little magic wands that say, I'm healed, you're healed now, walk out the door and walk on water. And it doesn't work out that way. In effect, every person that comes to, the old story, the old idiom, healer, heal thyself. It's healer, you are here to heal thyself. And that's the truth. But we've sort of bought it and warped it into the thing. You said, I'm a healer. What does that really mean? It means that you're here to heal yourself through the dimension and the interface of your clients. Every client is there to confront you, to face you with yourself, so you can fix yourself. And as you fix yourself, you actually assist them to heal. And you see,
that's awesome. I love that part.
That means that it's a reverse position, and that position means that you're here to facilitate the healing within you, that also transmutes their issues in themselves. It is a biofeedback system. It is a looping system. There's only one consciousness. You know, the real truth is that we're not our bodies. So therefore, our bodies are simply temporal components of the healing process. If you're looking at physical healing, you know, if you had no head, you'd feel no pain. So what's the answer to pain management? Cut off everybody's head.
Cut off your head.
So
that was a good one.
The real truth of be a lot of heads lying around in places. Yeah. But in truth, yeah, well, I used to be in pain management, and I became a good headhunter.
Yeah.
But I discovered that, you know, very early in my clinical practice, that as I began to see my clients as facets or projection of myself, I learned more in clinical practice than I had done in any other time in my life, by having people that emulated and transposed and projected my own internal limitations, my own internal beliefs and systems, even though they didn't appear to be. They didn't come in. They came in bad backs. I didn't have a bad back, but I had similar facets, splinters, slivers of their journeys inside of me as well. And as I began to understand and realize that, I began to excavate that stuff in myself, and they also got better. Yeah. Okay, we helped along with all sorts of other things, but basically, I work with, you know, with energy medicine, and I was a pretty good intuitive diagnostician by the end of the period that I was working with. So I was very clear, very concise, and I can talk to medical doctors in their language. So I could actually tell a guy that go to your doctor and tell them you have 3rd stage liver cancer in this particular part of the region, and get them to confirm that diagnosis. And in many ways, in most cases, it was correct. So, you know, having a medical background obviously helps in terms of languaging between that and the medical community, which is where I work. Yeah. But from a different place. Anyway, yeah. Any other questions?
So what is the fastest way for us to heal these aspects of ourselves? Or what is the, you know, what would you recommend when we see something, you know, come into that needs healing, something that triggers us? How do we go about healing those triggers?
Well, first of all, in most people's cases, they are not aware of their programs until the programs are physically revealed, usually by our emotional outbursts, emotional connections, and the way we feel about a certain situation, condition, or environment. And so we need to become conscious observers of our responses and reactions to certain situations, which then begin to, you can then say, okay, why do I keep reacting like this? Why do I keep acting like this? And acting and reacting, that causes toxic behavior, that I'll use that, traumatic behavior, self-harm, whatever it is. Why do I keep acting in a way that I also co-create certain events, certain conditions, and certain people into my life? We're now moving into a broader picture of what I call gravitational attraction. You know, how we attract similar people into our field of experience to co-create with us and teach us about ourselves. But let's just stay on that dimension. That when we begin to observe the world, and by physical feedback, we see that we continue to do things by behavior. And that habit and behavior are consistent with the program. Now, what that means is that it gives you a physical loop, a biofeedback, a feedback system where, and I'm assuming that you're becoming conscious, because if you're unconscious, you don't see the relevance between one event and another. You'll just blast off when somebody pushes your buttons and punch them in the nose and do what a lot of people do, or you become the observer of your reactions and actions in the physical world, and you begin to question why you've repeated the same people. You repeat the history of your fathers and mothers because that's where you got the stuff from. And you say, there's a story: you marry your mother, or you marry your father. You're marrying their programs.
Yes.
And you bring them into your physical experience until you define or redefine yourself, and then you no longer need a facsimile of your father or your mother to release. And that'll take us into the field of co-creating relationships, which is a really interesting place to go. But we'll talk about that. We've got many years to do this, approximately 50. So we have many questions that we'll be able to cover in this time. But the question of excavating your stuff, literally, I would say, there's all sorts of tools. There's EFT, there's Sedona, there's Brandon Bays, there's all sorts of things around them. People are discovering their own facility as well. Whatever works for you, works for you. But you see, the trick is that you're going to people who are healers, okay? You're asking them to facilitate your healing processes, and you are there to mirror to each other, because that person, I will guarantee you, has the same stuff as you got. Okay? Your healer is a facsimile of you. Okay? And, I don't know if you've ever worked in the field of psychology, psychiatry, or counselling, but they're as nutty as fruitcakes, a lot of them. And I'm not being judgmental, because they are there to actually redefine who they are through their clients, but they don't see that. They have this firewall and say, I'm the psychiatrist, I know it all. And then you spend years and years and dollars paying for this treatment, and all I'm doing is having a word fest at your expense, and you come back and say, what the hell did I get out of that? And you see, you're thinking, all right, well, but sometimes these guys do come up with what I call intuitive bombshells that get you thinking another direction. And so when you get that, you grab hold of it and you run with it, and you run away as fast as you can from your healer and heal yourself. The journey of healing is interesting, and it is like I've been in this field since the 80s, so I've been around a long time, and I've seen most of it. And and I would say that every human being has the innate ability to heal themselves once they discover they have that ability. And that means physical, emotional, mental, all of those sort of things. You see, where healing really takes place is not the locality of the body and the mind. It's in the locality of source consciousness itself. And for those of you who don't know, I transmitted an invocation about 7 months ago, which it took a while to come down because it really needed to be precise in its languaging. That invocation was designed to release all limitations of the limits, all your limitations. That's all your programs, your imprints, your beliefs that created struggle or suffering in your life of some form or another, or created a ceiling on your infinite possibilities, made you small, made you less successful. You know, all of these things that we tell ourselves a story. Now, in a sense, when you go back to the time that all of these imprints happened, what really are imprints? What are programs and what are beliefs? They're essentially memories, energetic memories that we keep. Now, we are here to experience, create memories.
Me too, Astrid.
To create memories,
yes,
and let them go. Yet children, some memories, some experiences are so either traumatic or memorable that they hang on to them. So that's why that period between 0 and 7 or 8 is that time where they begin to keep memories and let some memories go. And the memories they keep are memorable in the sense that they could be memorable traumatic or memorable really great. Okay, so if you go back and if you can remember when you were 6, 7, 8, you may have had really great memories that you still retain. But you'll certainly have memories that where there's trauma that you may have retained or suppressed because the memories are so painful, you push them down. Yet the thing about them is they are still memories, they are still energetic aberrations that affect you when conditions arise for them to arrive. Now, if you understand that you're not a physical form, you're actually energy. And if you understand that you can actually, as a conscious local entity, your source self, basically through a languaging facility, you can ask that energy, that frequency of source, which is love. And it loves that big thing that dissolves everything. And you ask for it to release all of these limitations. It can be done virtually overnight. No years, no lifetimes of going through struggle and everything else. When I asked, so years ago when I was teaching this stuff, when I went through my teaching phase, I was talking to people about, and in those days, all of those so-called seers and gurus that were talking about emotional intelligence, and we didn't even have those words then. They said, oh, you've got to take it off and then you'll get another layer and then another layer and then another layer. You've got to peel layers off, and layers could take years. I say, for God's sake, an onion has a core. You take the core out and the skin all slips off. Why? What's wrong with you guys? If you really want to get rid of stuff, go and find the core of the problem and then deal with that. And all of the other attachments to it disappeared. You don't need to go through. It's like living your life, driving your car backwards through the rear vision mirror. You're always looking at, what's the next problem? What's the next problem? Instead of driving forward and saying, where are my infinite possibilities? What greatness is in me that I can lift out and bring into the world? What great experiences that can I pull out of the realm of infinite possibilities and produce a higher version, a greater version of myself? And we get locked into this whole thing. We were talking about earlier on, what you focus on, you get more of. Imagine that you're a person that said, oh, I'm broken. And each day I've got to fix part of myself. So your whole world is about broken. And you get more of that. You meet broken people. And they talk about, broken things. They're talking about how they're broken and you're broken and my trauma and their trauma and my suffering and your suffering. Having been in the world of physical world of healing, I used to have friends who formed these support groups. And, you had cancer support groups. I said, the greatest thing about that group is supports cancer.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Bob, I was talking to someone recently who had gone through the AA program. Okay, so he had several relapses with alcoholism, and now he continues to go to the meetings to support the other people and whatever in the group. And the one thing that they always say in those groups is that I am an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
So and I said, don't say that. And he did not understand why I was saying that. I said, I am are two of the most powerful words, and whatever you say behind them, you become. And he said, well, I'm not, he's not, I guess he wasn't like trying to, what is the right words that I'm trying to use? He didn't feel bad by saying I'm an alcoholic, because he's like, well, but don't you think
that would have been a better truth? I was an alcoholic in past tense. I am now healed.
Yes.
And that's really, remember, a lot of these groups come from a theological base too. I mean, the alcohol was, I think the AA was really formed back in the early part of the last century and was sponsored by anti-alcoholic people, including the Salvation Army, were very much instrumental in getting that whole thing going. So there's also a religious underlying thing about that. There's a presumption that all alcoholics will remain alcoholics. And once the body has no longer the requirement for the keys and locks of alcohol, you can move on to sugar. Sugar addiction.
Yeah.
You can move on to chocolate. They're better forms. On to all sorts of, when we are not at peace with ourselves, when we are looking and we're lost inside, we look for things outside of ourselves. Alcohol is one. Alcohol is basically there as a suppressant for our pain, except you get up in the morning with a hangover.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. All the drugs that we take are there to suppress the pain. And the issue is not the drugs, it's our pain. That, and all the connected belief systems and programs that have caused that. They're not, they're managing symptoms, they're not managing the cause. And the cause, the ultimate issue is separation. Because when we discover who we really are, there is no need for suffering. There is no need for limitation. Everything, all of these barriers dissolve, and individually and collectively, we would be a different human organism entirely. But that's why we're here. Why Co-Creation Global emerged is because with Soul's work and all of the stuff that is being given to me and transferred to you guys, because you're part of this collective too. And I'm not just talking about you, Kim. I'm talking about everybody and the community itself. We invited you into this community to actually co-create, but also to learn and experience. And this is Co-Creation 101 in action. whether it's co-creation global as our enterprise, which is just simply a vehicle, or whether it's the co-creation community, which will morph into the movement over time, you're all part of this. So, you're going to have to deal with your limitations. You're going to have to open up to infinite possibilities, and we're here to assist you to grow into this, to grow into that, the fullest potential, that you can be in the possibilities. It's working with soul and source is not that hard. In fact, it makes the journey a lot easier because we don't have to do much of the heavy lifting. Source does most of that. I over the last 11 months, basically built this this organization on manifesting and co-creating all of you guys, and I was very specific about it, and I was very keen, and I just simply, I've been doing this for 60 years, but so I know the formula pretty well. But actually, I am prepared to share that with everybody and anybody that's willing to give it a try.
Love it.
And bring it in. So it's not exclusive, and
not a secret. Yeah.
The ultimate aim is to get you guys, all you people, becoming independent mini versions of soul, your own souls, your own signals of love.
Yes.
And to be able to teach you how to access that in a way that you bypass all your beliefs and limitations, and you get pure. I think what we're probably going to do is eradicate the need for books and spiritual influences, because everybody is going to become their own spiritual
their own guru,
truthsayer, their own spiritual teacher.
I love it.
And my wife made me throw out 100 books before we moved, and they were all people you would know. And she said, "Have you read any of those books?" I said, "No." I used to collect these books. I had no idea why I was collecting them. You'll know them all if I mention names. I'm not going to, but I'd collect them, and then I'd open up a paragraph, and I'd read that paragraph, and I said, "I was transmitted that 2 years ago." So basically, all the data I've been receiving from Soul, the source, was only ratified by buying a book, reading one page or a paragraph, then putting it back on the shelf, and then giving it away to St. Vincent de Paul or something else later on. I carried these books around for years, but I never read them, and I still don't. I actually make a point of not reading other man-made material, in the sense that everything I need is in the one package, and I don't need to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so that keeps a level of purity and involved in the type of transmission I generate, because it's not overlaid with any belief systems. I gave away belief systems a long time ago. I believe in nothing. In fact, I don't know anything, and quite frankly, this is true. I don't know anything at the local level. I just know that Source knows everything. And when I ask for a question, I get an answer, okay? And I know that's the truth. And then I just sponsor that and facilitate that. I don't need to know anything, because, heck, you don't know what your neighbour's up to. You don't know what's going on down the street. You don't know what's going on in Syria. You have no idea what's going on in Russia. Technically, every human being on the planet knows nothing at the physical level. They really know nothing.
Yeah.
The moment you admit that, you understand there's a sort of humility about it. And you say, I agree, I know nothing. So where is the repository of all knowing? It only can be in one place. And when we tap into that, and I'm going to I plan to rebuild a course I built in 1992 called Mastering Your Inner Tutor. Now, it's a synthesis. It's a hybridation. It's a hybrid between it's all the facets of intuition, how it works, why it works, and when it works. But it has another frequency to it. It's actually attending to the frequency of connecting with source consciousness itself, your own version to it. So it's a what I call an evolved version of intuition, used in a very concise and very broad way. So you can use it for anything and anything, everything in your physical experience. But it is a navigation tool. Awesome. It's a teaching tool. So you learn from it if you're prepared to listen to it. The problem is most people don't. If they do, they monkey mind gets in the way. You said, no, that's rubbish. You follow me. And in my early 20s and 30s, when I didn't listen, I listened to monkey mind, everything fell apart. I use the word everything fell to shit. But anyway, and I learned from hard experiences that when I listen to intuition, everything flows. When I don't, resistance appears and I get into struggle. And so
I think most of us just haven't learned to really tune in and listen to that intuition. So that's definitely a course that we could all benefit from.
Well, there's lots of courses, but the people who are teaching the courses are teaching it for themselves.
Yeah.
They're learning from their course. They're there to learn from their own teaching experience, but you're paying them for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So can I just talk about the community for a little bit? I just wanted to.
Yeah. Please do.
When this idea first evolved itself in 2016, part of the strategy is, if anybody hasn't seen our videos, they're on YouTube. Please go and have a look, because they really explain a lot of this stuff in depth. And if you want to have a look at my story, there's a 45-minute video on all of this stuff. And I don't know if it's interesting. I just made it. It'll be interesting to you.
So the channel on YouTube, you need to tell everyone what channel. Is it Co-Creation Global on YouTube?
No, it's actually. Oh, well, Astrid, would you find the channel and put it on the comments box, please? So that people can find their way to the YouTube channel so they can have a look at the videos. Thanks, guys, for all the background stuff. I mean, I don't know how to press buttons here, so I'll just talk. Anyway, it's all there at the community discussion, the platform that we're building. This is the website, which is under development now. The 6-phase strategy, where we're going and what we're going to do in the next 30 to 50 years. All of that has been sort of put in place. Because I used to talk about it so long, each discussion took 2 hours. So I said to Darren, I said, let's do a series of videos, which is go watch the video. And that actually has restricted the amount of time, so our conversations can go in other directions. But the community is an important part. And I'm going to allude you to an interesting bit of information. When Source gave me a figure that required to build this movement into 300 million people, it said there was a reason for it. It was a mathematical equation based on base 12 mathematics. It was also based on Pythagorean modeling. Now, if anybody knows anything about Pythagorean numerology, that's the study of numbers and its effect on the world. And Pythagorean numerology can be fairly accurate. And the 300 million figure If you take 300 million and it's got all zeros, it comes to the number 3. Now, the number 3 is spiritual ascension. It is actually the tipping point for creating global consciousness. If you look up, if you go Google and do numerology, the meaning of the number 3, it'll actually give you a fairly in-depth description. I don't have it in front of me in my little book of numerology at this moment in time. Go Google number 3 numerology, the meaning of 3, you find it. But if you approach it from another point of view, there's another way of expressing the value 3. It's 3 to the power of 9. That's 9 zeros and 3 to the power of 9. If you add the 9 and the 3, it comes to 12. Add the 1 and the 2, it comes to 3.
Right.
Okay. Now, has anybody seen the symbol of Om, which is the voice of the universe? It looks like a 3, doesn't it?
3. Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes.
So all of these things are being combined in the 300 million is indeed the power of the voice, the harmonic of the way it express the universe, the sound of the universe, of source, if you like, of the singularity. The number 3 is the frequency by which the power of 3 is engaged in a process by which it infects the rest of humanity. Have a look at the words in there. You'll find the definitions in words. But I just wanted to explain that. So where the 3, the power of 3 million, 300 million, or the 3-9 group, or the 300 million group, but that's the size of the movement. And the movement is built on what is there right now, whoever we are. And what came out of that is the formula, the +2, it actually is the +3 formula. Now, what Source showed me is that once people fully understand what we're here to do and why we're doing it, and that they connect to that understanding. The formula 3, it's the +3, it's just called +3 formula, is that if one person contracts to teach or mentor, is a better word, mentor 3 other people, whatever time it takes, 6 months or a year, and fully teaches them the practice of co-creation, that the next year there are 4 people. If those 4 people then contract to take another 3, the year after that, there are X amount of many people. So if you take the model +3, and it's a progressive model, if you just simply did that, one person agreeing to mentor 3 people. Now, they could charge for it or they could do it free. It's up to them. But if they did that and those 3 did the same, 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 we would make that shift really, really quickly. And that's part of the process. So 3 is a very important part of our of the underlying mathematics, if you like, the Pythagorean energy, which is designed to build this whole community. The community is also what a part of this system. They're also co-creating with us. So what we are also doing is providing them a space to evolve, grow, and develop themselves. And in that side, the community is, we're sponsoring the community. We're not managing it. We're not telling them how to run it. We just trust that from within the community, leaders will emerge influences will emerge, ambassadors will emerge to self-govern the community and build upon its collectivism as it goes. It's a bit like a river. You know, not all rivers start off as little streams. And the more water you add, you know, whether it's rain or from a glacier, the greater the volume of the water and the more power that river has. So we just want to just feed more water into the stream, and we're a little stream at the moment, and we'll just feed more water in, and we'll nurture that stream. We'll build upon it. We'll add more water, and we'll just keep it going bigger and bigger. And even the little drops of water that come from rain into the river, they all make a difference. And so we'll just build upon that until we cut our way down to the sea and join the bigger thing, the bigger dipper.
Yes.
The acronym of, you know, going towards totally, truly awake. But the community is an essential part of this whole vision, and I just simply want to say how much I welcome all of you and how much, you know, love there is in the group, and that we're able to share that. And so for you, Kim, I love you dearly.
Yes.
You know, you're just wonderful.
I love you too.
And to all the Astrid, you know, you're just awesome. Astrid's our social media genius.
I know.
She's in background at the moment.
Yes.
And Darren, he's the videographer. Kim Crawford, who's not here today, is our engagement manager. And by the way, I'm electing to have these guys. And this has never been done before. There's been no organisation that actually brings the structural founding team into the group. So I'm going to invite all of you, Darren, Astrid, Kim Crawford, the newer players, Pam, and some new people that are coming on board, to encourage you to come and do. We're actually working on a piece of software that allows 6 of us to come on board at the one stage. But I'm going to encourage you to come meet, have a chat with Kim, and just let people know what you do, what your story was, how you got here. And so I'm putting you on the spot, guys.
I love it.
Your term is and you know, I think the community will love to hear how other people's found their way into to us, to me.
Yes.
Not besides the fact that I'm a really good co-creator, but but also, you see, that's what I call, you know, it's syncing and linking. It's coming out and sending out the frequency. And just, you know, somebody hears that and they just appear through whatever system is there.
I can tell my story real quick. It was like a new moon. I was in a group with all these people, and we were setting intentions for this new powerful moon. And my intention was to have a positive impact on the world at large. And I set that intention. And then not like a week later, Bob messages me on Facebook and we connected. And I was like, he sent me the videos. I watched them all in probably one day. I think I just like boom, 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 boom. And I was like, yep, I'm in. I get the purpose of this. And we want to shift the planet to the vibration of love and really embody Christ consciousness. You know, so many people who grew up in religious backgrounds. I mean, my parents taught me that, you know, Jesus was going to come and save the planet. And I no longer believe that. I believe we are the ones. When Christ said, when Jesus said, or Joshua, or whatever you want to call him, I don't care.
His original name was Joshua ben Joseph. They turned that was his Jewish name, and they changed it to Jesus. It's called Yahshua, Yehus Christos, which means King and God. That's the Greek version. It's a emperor or leader So there's two parts of it: king
Yeah.
and all, all pervading things. So that's where they got Jesus Christ from. It came from the Greek Jayco
Yeah.
Christos.
Yeah. So the way that I was taught and raised was that, he's going to come back and save everybody. And all you have to, and I no longer believe that. I believe that we have to embody that frequency of unconditional love ourselves. We have to create heaven on earth ourselves. Am I right, Bob?
Yep. It's all about here. It's not about anywhere else. Anywhere else is that we just simply go back to source and choose to become a planet, or choose to become something else, or come back here and recycle. That's it's all up to us. Say, well, look, let's go to the planet Krypton or Vulcan and start, an experience over there. There's infinite possibilities of experiences way beyond our comprehension. And Einstein said, man can never understand the mind of God, and that is true. Because it's so vast and it's infinite in its proportion. There is one absolutism, that God is absolute. That energy, that frequency, which we are. No, never forget that. It's not something out there. We tend to use that, that externalism in our language. Is that God, or this frequency, or this energy, or source, as I tend to call it, is us. Is always us, will always be us, and there's no doubt about that. We were meant to discover this, and then impress upon this planet a field of consciousness, actions, and behaviors that were no longer in separation, we began to shift borders. We eliminated borders. We lived as one collective tribe physically. We no longer had the need for armies, police forces, or anything else, because that in that consciousness nature, nobody would steal, nobody would kill, nobody would maim, nobody would take away from somebody else. There's a field of consciousness where there is no lack, because there's always more. Because we are co-created. We know, we have learned how to co-create as a collective. We learn how to co-create as an individual. And so we create this completely new paradigm in every facet of human experience, social, political, and thing. And I said, I was talking to a lady the other day, politicians should be sent to wisdom school before they actually get elected. They need a diploma of wisdom before they could go into politics.
Yeah.
So, and that sort of, our politics of the future will be completely different. It won't be politics. It'll be a collective that is self-organizing with a group of wise elders that provide guidance. And we work empathetically. We work in tune with source. We work in tune with ourselves, and we work in tune and in concert, and we coexist with our planet in equal form.
Love it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bob. Well, I think for Saturday night, that would wrap us up. I so appreciate your wisdom, Bob, from the bottom of my heart. It's beautiful to be getting this message out and on this level. So definitely we will put the links for the co-creation global videos in the comments, and I encourage everyone to go and look at the mission and see if it's aligned with your heart and your purpose. So much love.
The other thing, for those of you who are new and have not yet experienced, because we're now transmitting from the Co-Creation magazine site. Astrid, would you put in the link to the community group? And anybody who would like to join the group, you're most absolutely welcome. In fact, the more that we can get into the group, most of you have appeared here because you've linked with me, you're in the same frequency. We just want to tell you that we are moving towards taking people away off my timeline. And most of the interactive work will actually happen in the group at a later stage.
Yeah.
At this stage, this is a transitory, a bridging period where we're asking people to come across and join the co-creation global community, which will become the movement. Now, inside of that, there are all sorts of goodies coming up. So we'll tell you about the goodies over here, but if you want to get the goodies, they're going to be over there. So, okay, there's a bit of an incentive to slip across and make yourself known. Say hi to Kim, say hi to Astrid, all the team. You know, we really love you to come across and be part of this emerging thing called Co-Creation Global.
Yay.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
I love
it. I'm going to go and have some food and do a few things for a Sunday afternoon now. Okay. All right, then. Thanks you.
So much love.
Okay, lots of love.
Bob.
Okay, bye.
Bye.